Cool. So I suppose welcome everyone. Well, I'm Sam. I'm from the UK originally, so I've been watching and listening to football for a while. I'm a Liverpool supporter. Everything Liverpool goes through me. I've been playing FPL for 10 plus years, and I've had very average finishes. I think to say is probably the best way to describe it for that time period. I think last year we really tried to knuckle down a little bit, and I was like, "This is my year." It wasn't my year, but that's fine. This is my year. Um, yeah, so it's trying to finish higher, I suppose. Andy, what about you? Where have you picked up your football knowledge from?
Oh, hey team. I'm Andy. I wasn't born in the UK. Lived in Australia most of my life, and up until maybe a couple of years ago, or maybe a bit longer than that, I actually didn't know what FPL even was. I remember at work in the workplace, someone said, "Oh, do you want to join this fantasy football stuff?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I like a good punt." So, so I put some money in, and I ended up winning that mini league at the time. And I thought, oh, this is fun. And I knew nothing about football back then. I still know very little about football now, but I love the game of FPL. So the last time I played, Robin van Persie had just become a Man United player, and that's when I stopped playing FPL because I'm an Arsenal supporter. So Sam invited me to FPL last season, and that was a fun experience. Uh, did okay, but yeah, I had to. It was a steep learning curve with lots of new names. So I'm actually approaching FPL from a perspective of I don't really watch the games. I know the players, love the game of FPL, and I see stats. So Sam's like the very on the ground. He knows stuff. He knows lots of stuff kind of person, and I'm like the yeah. This feels good. The stats look okay on this one. They're very clinical with my transactions and trades.
Yeah, I think that's how our difference from last year, wasn't it? Like you were very much like, I've gone early on this guy because he's going to go up in price, and I was like, why have you gone with him? He doesn't look very good on the pitch. I think I'm very much a I like his movement, I like his style, I like his incorporation of other players. Which sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not as good because they underperform. Um, so yeah, I think now straight away a bones pick. You never told me you finished top of that mini league when I invited you last year. Otherwise, I wouldn't have invited you last year.
Well, looking back, I think I fluked being the top of that mini league. So that's why I
What?
didn't I, I didn't actually think to mention anything.
Yeah. Well, I think our mini league last year. I think you kind of came second in that, didn't you? You we pipped to the post with
Oh, look, to be
well,
honest, to give credit to the person who won it, I was trying to chase for a while and I wasn't catching up. They made some good colds towards the end of last season. Uh, and, and we'll get into this a bit later, but I'm legitimately considering changing up my strategy for the first time. So I've played, I think this will be my maybe third season of FPL. So 2 years and years and years and years ago, 2 or 3 years and years ago. I can't remember now. And then last season was, the sort of welcome back season. And I've always played it the same way, which is make trades to make money and then be able to afford a big team. Literally, my strategy is be Man City. Basically, choose the Man City buy player strategy.
and for me that was completely new. Like I'd not like last year listening to some other podcasts and stuff, listening to how you were playing it. I was just like, how is this going to work? How? But I suppose the players who are doing well are the ones going up in price, so they're bound to get you some stuff. And then in the second half of the year, I think you were just like, I'm going to buy Son as well. And I was like, how can you afford Son as well as Salah and all the other players you got? And it's all that prep, the initial prep of building stuff up, which was pretty cool to see. And it was a bit of a, I thought I was going to chase you down for a little bit the second half of last year because there was a couple of weeks where I was like, yep, I've got 20 points on him. I've got 20 points on him again. And then, nah, you ran away from me.
That
Um,
strategy only works well if towards the later half of the season, all the premium players are firing. But last year there
yeah,
was a period where I think Haaland or Salah was injured or they weren't playing very well. So it's almost like a lot of that extra money to be able to buy expensive players went to waste because it's not like they all fired around the same time. So sometimes it works, and other times, meh, meh.
Yeah, I think you did that well because I think I noticed that I think we both had Haaland and Salah, and I got rid of Haaland when he got injured, and you did as well. And then Salah kind of went off the boil, and I kept him, and you got rid of him and moved on to I think it was Saka, and then it was just game over because I just held on for too long. His price didn't go up. The Salah's price kind of stays, doesn't really move too much, but I think you got a bit of extra money in there from a couple of year differential. So, but anyway, enough about last year because it's gone and it's starting again. Everyone's at zero. Where
Right.
Arsenal did not win anything again. Yes, excellent. And
Come on,
let's
come
move.
on, come on, come on. We can't have Man City win again.
I mean, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I was kind of hoping when Liverpool dropped out of it towards the last couple of game weeks, I was kind of hoping that Arsenal would catch it. But City, that's City's game, isn't it? They're good all year, and they are phenomenal in the last 10 weeks of the season. They just don't drop points. But hopefully, it could be another poor season. It looks interesting from City with I don't know if you've seen any of the news with like Alvarez maybe leaving. And they have a lot of players coming back from the Copa and the Euros. So maybe a slow start might give people enough room to get away, but who knows?
And see, this is where you shine. I knew none of that.
Yes. So I think let's kind of briefly say that why is there's a million fantasy Premier League podcasts now. Every man and their dog, especially in Europe, is doing their own one. Um, why is ours different?
That's a really good question. I'm waiting for some divine intervention here. End of the day, what is Fantasy League all about? It's about the banter. It's about the competitiveness. It's about it's about making those calls, having a punt, and seeing if you were right. And isn't that so much more fun when you have a group of people to do it with? So when I think about how I consume a fantasy FPL content, regardless of how many there are, so I'm a consumer, regardless of how many there are, I kind of like it on in the background. I like to hear people's different thoughts and I like to hear people's different banter and everything like that. So what's another one added to it? It's just a bit more fun. And being two boys who are living in Australia, fans of FPL from EPL from all the way across the pond, I reckon we'll have some very different takes. Well, mine will be mid at best with the FPL knowledge I have, but Sam, I think you'll have some pretty cool takes. You were my source of information last year.
I got I got to give credit to some of the pods that I listen to. There's a couple of sites. I won't drop them in because uh, let's not give a couple extra credence. But um, yeah, I listen to some stuff. I think I'm like you. I drive to work. So there's always one on in the car. There's a news that I get that's just got a quick bash of information, which is sometimes really helpful. Um, and it's good having that input, but then it's also finding out how much input is too important and like going with your own decisions as well sometimes. I think that's the key part is if you're listening to try and get expected goals, expected assists, what all the stats are, you're probably not going to get it here. But you will hear a lot of banter, two people just having a laugh about the game, enjoying it. And if you pick something up, fabulous. That's what we want. But if you're not and you're just in for the fun, hey, maybe next year we'll be three friends talking about shit about FPL and you'll join us. Who knows?
Love it. We'll have a whole community talking about FPL.
1,500 people talking shit about FPL.
Yes,
Great.
I love it. Let's make that the aim. We're gonna make FPL huge down under. It's probably already really big.
I think if you do like listening to us go away about FPL, I think um I work shift work and he's got his own stuff. We've both got young families, so we're probably going to aim to get a pod out early in the week. like Mondays or Tuesdays. It might not hit until Wednesdays or Thursdays. Bear with us. Um, but if you want to listen when it's out, you're good to go.
Yes. Perfect. All right. So what are we talking about today? What are we going to get into today? I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious because I know I'm going to learn. I want to walk away from today learning something new.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we briefly touched on it already, but like, how do we pick our teams? I think you've already kind of gone into it a little bit with your price changes, but I'm very much a watch all the highlights. Try and watch the 30-minute highlights for most of the games. Have a look at the players that I like, the team to play. Already know, um, see how they're performing, and kind of watching those the teams you don't expect to do well. They've got the Leicester's title-winning season. They came out Bournemouth last year, who played quite well and got some good results. I like trying to pick the small players from the teams who are banging in assists or the unexpected positions. Like not picking up a centre back, picking up a wing back, or someone who's playing out of position. I think we had a couple of seasons ago. We had like forwards playing in midfield, it's not as great, or midfielders playing in the forwards, and kind of isolating those and picking them and going for those and kind of get a bit of a differential that way. Sprinkling in a couple of the premiums because you have to, because otherwise you get left behind. And then going from there and making their own decisions from there on after. But that last year was very much not how you played the game.
No, I played the game, I think, the same way each year. And I'm very tempted to change it up this year, but who knows? I might just fall into old habits. And my strategy is take a lot of note on price rises. My daily habit would be to check the price rises before the cutoff for that day. And I identify the players who are going up very quickly because to make zero point 0.1 million, you need a player to go up 0.2 million because you always only get to keep half of the rise if you sell that player. So it's really only worth trying to catch players who are getting enough interest to go up zero point 0.2 million in that week. So you want to aim for players who can try and go up 0.2 million in a week, or if they're hitting a hotspot, they'll go up a lot throughout a number of weeks. So that's really my strategy. There's players going up every single night, so I'm not going to catch all of them. So my strategy around that has been if someone's just scored like a lucky goal, they're going to go up because people jump on that bandwagon and I normally avoid them. But if they've been hot for 2 game weeks now, then they start catching more interest and I want to jump on that price rise. And the other thing there is uh, I'm not afraid to take hits. So my mentality has been I will spend the first half of the season taking a neg four every week. I'm pretty sure I had more weeks where I took a neg four than I didn't last season. I'm quite sure that's the case, and I almost never roll a transfer, which will be interesting this season with our five transfers that you can roll.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm not afraid to take hits as long as I can catch the price rise. But like I said, that can backfire if premiums are not doing their thing.
It'll be interesting if you go with the same strategy. Like, I know you're talking about maybe going elsewhere. My strategy with the team that I've built so far, it's very much a get to game week 5, then I can tear it up with the 5 transfers. Let's pick some good fixtures, pick some rotating backline. Yeah, so I think I've very much gone for like I've got a strong bench as well. Like I don't want to get left short, so I've got some good players who are going to be good all year. I've got some good early picks, I think, good early picks for the like a rotational defensive line, and then some, a couple of lower owned players who should have the potential to go. And yeah, so like I'm set up for 5 weeks, and then like hint, there's no Arsenal because they don't have great easy fixtures,
Oh,
but
they
they're
don't.
coming in game
Yeah,
week 6. They're coming in,
game week
but there's
six.
a so they can go early on those, but who knows? We'll have to see how the first seasons kick off. And coming out of the Euros, coming out of the Copa, players aren't back. We don't actually know what teams are going to be put out there because some, like I said about City, some teams have got numerous people who are not trained yet. They've not played any preseason games. Will they be in the lineups game week 1? Who knows? So we could have some strange results the first couple of weeks until everything settles down, and that might throw a spanner in the works. And yeah, then we're changing.
And I find the people who fire off in preseason aren't always the same people who end up even starting when the game starts. I've been bit by that in the past. So I normally wait till the very end before the season starts to finalize my team.
And you take that to teams as well. When Liverpool won the championship, they lost all their preseason games. City regularly don't win all of their preseason games. They, mess around with the teams. They play Oscar Bob in attacking midfield, who's Oscar Bob, but he's been doing well, but he probably won't play a minute of the season. Like,
hey, funny story. Right before this call, I did consider getting Bob in because he's been doing well in preseason.
I mean, hey, all it takes is for Foden to not be ready for the season. We know about De Bruyne's history. He's played with Belgium. He should be back fit. But if Foden's out and Alvarez leaves, there's a spot there that Bob could potentially fill. And then I think he's 5'5". That is a great City pickup if he's going to be playing every game.
That would be like the Cole Palmer of this season.
Yeah. And Palmer's
he's
not worth it this year.
He's not 4.5 anymore.
He's not 4.5. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he started at 5 and then he's doubled this year. He's at 10.5. It's nuts.
Crazy.
That's cool. So that's how we go about our teams. That's how we pick our teams. How has that helped you? Where's that energy, Andy? Do you know where you finished last year? What rank you got at the end of all things considered?
Yeah, I had to. This is where Sam's wealth of knowledge. I didn't know how to check my team rank from last year, but I finished with 2,434 points and rank 233,633. So 233K. I would
finish.
I would like to beat that this year. I would really love to, if I can get in the top 100,000, that would be amazing. But that's just like a moonshot goal.
Andy's first ever finish is better than my best ever finish. So I finished on 2,231 last year, which gave me a rank of 1,794,490. So, in the middle of the pack. It's kind of like, I think towards the end there, I was getting it differentially, and that probably didn't help. I think I managed to get close to 1 million, and then it dropped right off. Like, just looking through my past hits, I think my best finish is 400,000, but that was in 2011, and the amount of players has tripled since then, probably. So it's not really comparative, and that was a 1,897 season. So 2022, I got 2,350, which is probably my highest point season ever, and that's probably 1,000 of those were Salah. So that's not too bad for the little man. But yeah, so I think this season I just aim to beat myself.
Yeah,
because if I try and beat everyone else, it doesn't work.
Yes, absolutely. Main goal, beat the self, but then let's we got to have some friendly competition. That's most of the fun, to be honest.
I think I tried to hook in with the guy who won our mini league last year. He seems keen. He said he was very excited for the last half of last year. He didn't know who Mr. Andy was, but he was determined to beat him. So, I've put the call out there. I'll see if he rejoins, and we'll see if you can take him down this year, I suppose.
See, that's how good he was. He didn't even know who was coming second. He was just like, I'm so ahead of the pack right now. I remember there was one week where he brought in, I think towards the end of the season, 2 Fulham defenders, and they both clean sheeted and got attacking returns. And I thought that was a genius move. And then you told me that was he just brought in 2 random players.
Yeah, who did he bring in? It was
like Robinson.
Robinson and Castagna, I think it was.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it was. Yeah.
And they both bonus points, and it was ridiculous. But I mean, again, see, they're the things that I miss. Like, I had Leno the whole season, Fulham goalkeeper, picked up loads of points, was the highest scoring goal for like 34 weeks until Pickford roared past him. Didn't pick the defenders. because Fulham defenders, they don't jump out as like the go-tos, but then got Trent's having a bad season, and then Gvardiol came from nowhere with his like 8 goals in whatever games, and that's a bandwagon I did manage to get on, so that was all good.
I missed that completely. Okay. We're talking teams. Let's. Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't want to disrupt the run sheet. What's next? I'm really
Ah,
curious to.
well,
I'm curious to see your
is there
team.
anyone else? Is there anyone else who's probably not in your team that you've kind of gone, oh, I like the look of them, or I wish I could have them, but they're not going to fit in my plan.
I would. I really want Salah in my team. That probably
Yeah,
tells you that I have a Salahless team right now. I would like Palmer only because last season he crushed it and he was so consistent.
yeah,
Um, Honestly, probably Salah, Palmer, and Gvardiol. I don't have Gvardiol right now, but I do have a way to get him in. My team will change. It's changed like 20 times in the last week. So
yeah.
I'm sure there'll be lots of changes.
Mine's been fairly settled for a few days, like a good probably 5 or 6 days. It's been pretty settled. Minor changes in like the lesser players, but the main structure of it has been there for a while
Okay.
now.
I'm
But
curious to
yeah,
see
no
this.
Palmer. Yeah, no Palmer, no Arsenal, which is nervy. But yeah, I don't know. Palmer. It could go
10 point.
either way. New manager at Chelsea, could be a new system. Maybe not going to be the same output. Still on penalties, I think. Um, but City straight off the bat, it is at Stamford Bridge, but it's not an easy fixture.
And I'm hearing good things
Um,
about Nkunku. So if you potentially could get exposure to Chelsea attack from someone who's meant to be really creative, can play in lots of positions at a much cheaper price point than Palmer, it
yeah, and
could be a good shout.
and it depends if where is Nkunku going to Nkunku, whatever, however we say it. Where is he going to play? Is he going to, because in the preseason he's been playing in like a central attacking midfield position, which is great for it. That's where we want him for our teams. Are we going to trust Jackson up front? Is he going to potentially take that spot up front? Are they going to bring someone else in? Like if Nkunku starts as the striker game week 1, his price is going to go through the roof because having a 6.5 million mid who's playing out of position as a striker, it's going to be great. He's taken a penalty in preseason. He scored. I think he's scored in most of the games. I haven't seen him play, but I mean, that looks good. It looks he could kill the game with that price.
The thing to consider though, and I only read this in a YouTube comment, so I don't know the validity of this. Right,
Go
that's
hit
where
me.
I get all my good information from. Is a lot of the goals he's been scoring have been free kicks or penalties, which Palmer normally does those.
Hmm.
But so do we need to discount the number of goals he's been scoring because they've not actually from open play? And with Palmer and him are both playing, chances are Palmer would take that kick, right?
Yeah, and that's it. Like we don't know. Like potentially, I mean, he seems like he's been in the right positions. He's been, but it kind of comes down to the fixtures as well. Like if they had City, Liverpool, Newcastle, United off the bat, I don't think we'd be considering it. But after the City game, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, Forest, like guess game week 7, and then you kind of move into Liverpool, Newcastle, United, Arsenal in a row. So we're probably, unless he's firing on all cylinders, we're probably off him at game week 8. But there's goals in there, and Chelsea last second half of last season, there was goals. They were conceding goals, but there was goals in that team. You know, if they're going to spread it around a little bit, if he's going to pick up a goal or an assist or whatever every other game, like yeah, Palmer might be scoring that penalty. Someone has to win that penalty, and that could be Nkunku, could be in the right spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're not wrong about the goal fest. Remember, what was it? Tottenham versus Chelsea last season? That match was crazy. There was the score and everything, and there was, bit of argy bargy on the pitch. It was great.
I mean, I like bringing up Tottenham. How many times did they have the win in the back
Hmm.
and then they threw it away? Like they had a few 4-4s, 5-4s, lost at last minute. which so then why aren't we thinking about Son?
Well, maybe I've already got Son.
Oh, maybe we are thinking
Maybe
about
we
Son.
are thinking about Son.
Because
Let's do the team. Let's do the team reveals.
Joe, go hit me,
Oh, am I going
throw me.
first? Oh, okay. All right. I'll
Oh,
go.
it's up to you. I go first. I don't really mind.
Yeah, you go first. You go
All
first.
right, let me
I'm nervous.
figure out the sharing thing. All right, share. Ignore the team name, by the way. It's not going to be for the whole season. I just haven't thought of a better name at this point. All right, so starting at the back, Pickford is in at the moment. I'm toying with getting a cheaper one, but he's kind of just my set and forget. I think he did well last year. Everton's backline hasn't changed too much. They might lose Branthwaite, but they've got a few other good spots in there. They had, I think, either the most or the second most clean sheets in the league last year. So, he's in the change in the bonus points will mean he picks up less. But yeah, I don't want to mess around with it. And on the bench, I've got Miguel from Forest. Thinking he might be the number one. It's a bit hard to know with Forest at the moment. But I think he's a 4 mil defender, a goalkeeper. It just means that I can afford. There's a 4.5, sorry. So he can change to Flecken or anyone else, but he's sitting there as a good rotation at the moment. Backline, Robertson, Guardiola, and Barco. Robertson has got great opening fixtures. There is a little injury doubt on him, whether he'll start. He hasn't played in preseason yet, but if he does, there's a lot of points. There's a lot of points in there for him and for Liverpool. I can't to Trent. I'd like to. I'm not sure whether he would play after being away at the Euros, but Ipswich, Brentford, United, Forest, Bournemouth, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Chelsea to game week 8. Like there's points in there, and then he easily becomes Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori from Arsenal easily without much tinkering.
The fixtures
Friday, I
look
think
easy.
yeah, they're great. But if Liverpool do a Liverpool and mess up the start of the season, it's a wasted 6 but hey, Gvardiol's in there. I think he's a given. There's some City coverage. He seems to be the one, and if they're going to rotate left, right, and centre again, I think he'll quickly come out. Barco looks set to start with Estupiñán being injured for the beginning of the year. He's played in pre-season. He's assisted a couple of goals. He's what's his price? 4 million. 4 million. Yeah, 4 million. He's easy. He's a starter. He's 4 million. Like, why wouldn't you? Sitting on the bench, I've got Concert and Anderson. So Concert's 4.5 million. He's Champions League level defender now with Villa. He wins lots of fouls. Anderson, again, wins fouls. He's big in the air. Barco, Concert, and Anderson have got a decent rotation. The only thing I'm considering is Trippier might be leaving Newcastle. If he leaves Newcastle, that Livramento is going to pop in that gap, and he's a 4.5, and that's probably some cover that I'm going to want to have. So that could be a Guardiola or a Robertson replacement, which then frees up, $1.5 million for the rest of the team. Midfield, I think is pretty standard across the teams that I've been seeing. Salah as a Gordon Fernandez. Salah, we talked about Liverpool's opening fixtures already. Darwin's been off at the Copa. Diaz has been at the Copa. Jota's coming back from injury. There's goals in that team. Hopefully they come from Salah, and he's on penalties. So, fingers crossed. Crystal Palace are, they've lost a little bit. They've lost Elise.
Yeah.
How
Mateta's at the Olympics, right?
The Olympics, yeah. So will he be back? There's that might mean that Eze picks up that what's missing, and he could go for it. But he's 7 million, so there's room to move in there. If he quickly doesn't get off the mark, then we can move. But again, Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester, United, Everton in the first 6. There's goals in those games. And Crystal Palace aren't the Roy Hodgson Crystal Palace anymore. They do attack, they do score. So fingers crossed they're going to come from him. Gordon he's in if he's at Newcastle. I think there's the rumors of him going to Liverpool makes him far less attractive, and if he moves to Liverpool before the start of the season, he's going to come out. I don't think there's room in that team for Salah and Gordon. There's not in my team anyway. So I don't know who Gordon will become. Again, there's other options at his 7.5 price point. If he leaves and if I get Livramento in, I think Gordon comes out anyway because I don't want full Newcastle. Bruno Fernandes is my midfield differential. He can go off. He's not been playing to his potential. United have had a change of. I think the ownership structure is still there, but they've stuck with Ten Hag. They're going to give it all. I think Fernandes is crucial to that team. Everything revolves around him. The fixtures aren't fabulous, but again, the second half of last season, United showed they could score. He takes penalties. They got Fulham, Brighton, Liverpool, Southampton, Crystal Palace, Tottenham. There's goals there, and even the Liverpool fixture doesn't scare me. United score against Liverpool. I think we thrashed them 7-0 a couple of years ago, but they held us twice last year and they beat us in the FA Cup. It's not a fixture that scares Man United, and I think it's not a fixture that scares Bruno Fernandes. His yellow card does bother me a little bit, but I think for the early going, he's worth a punt, and I'll move off him if he's really not going anywhere. But I think he's worth a go to start with, and we'll see how we go. And I don't see many teams with Fernandes in.
No, I have not seen many with Fernandes at all, or many Man U players at all. So when I saw that, I thought that's an interesting pick. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know who else you go for United. Rashford may be having a bit of a resurgence. But the Højlund's injured for 6 weeks. Their new defender's out for 3 months. Like, it's got to be in that midfield bracket, you'd think, where you're going to pick up any Man United players. And then,
is there such thing as player PTSD? Sometimes when there's that player you get that every time you pick that player up, they just don't perform, and you just are scarred from getting them ever again. To me, Man United players and Nicholas Jackson and Darwin were those, like, Man U, Nicholas Jackson and Darwin were those PTSD touch points for me last season. So when I see Fernandes here, I'm like, oh, that's logically, you're making a good argument, but I'm like, I don't think I can bring myself to do it.
Yeah, Danny Ings for me. Every time I bring him in, he doesn't do anything. Whether he's at Burnley, Liverpool, West Ham, any of the Claret teams, he doesn't do anything, and I'm left looking at him on my screen. So he's not in the draft, funnily enough. Bench midfielder is Nkunku. I think we've been over him. I think unless something happens preseason, he's a given. If Palmer doesn't even start because he's been at the Euros, that means penalties probably going to Nkunku. I think we said after the game, it's Wolves, Palace, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, Forest. So great fixtures to go into. I'm not even sure there's any other Chelsea midfielders that I go for. The Gallagher's just left Atletico. I don't think there's anything else. I think all the points are going to come from Palmer and Nkunku and whoever is sitting in the forward line. And then my forward line, Isak, how to say his name. I think he's in most teams that I've kind of seen. He's a little bit of a cover, like 55% selected. But again, Southampton, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Wolves, Fulham. There's points there in the opening round, or opening few rounds. Ollie Watkins, I mean, he was phenomenal last year. Again, I'm not seeing him in a whole lot of teams, even though it does say he's in 50% of teams. So I think it seems to be Watkins or Isak in the teams that I've seen. I'm hoping having both kind of helps me out, but I don't have Haaland. But I can't spend 15 million on a player at this point. I know he's bagged a hat trick in preseason. I think these two can cover him, and I like having three up top. And in the first few weeks, I've got three out in attack for a couple of times. But yeah, Villa's fixtures: West Ham, Arsenal, but at home, Leicester, Everton, Wolves, Ipswich, United, Fulham, Bournemouth, down to game week 8, 9. So, there's goals there, and Watkins is always going to bring you goals. So hopefully we'll get a few there. And then Muniz from Fulham. Um, got to have a cheaper one with the spread in the midfield that I've got. I think if he can grab that starting spot and keep it from Jimenez, I know they will share a bit of game time, but there's United, Leicester, Ipswich, West Ham, Newcastle, at home, Forest. There's goals there as well. So hopefully he can be at 6.9% owned. He can be another little differential, and if he does and he sets off, his price is going to go up. So
Absolutely.
that buys me some money in the Andy scheme of playing the game. Thoughts? I know you said
Oh,
Fernandez was a bit of a surprise for you,
yeah.
but otherwise,
You said something interesting. You said most of most of your midline you've seen in most teams, and it's pretty standard. Honestly, I think not that I've had a whole lot of FPL experience, but out of all the seasons I've played, this is the first season where I haven't seen a template because the
mm,
player base seems to be split. There's Haaland and Salah teams. There's Haaland only teams. There's Salah only teams, and it seems like people going in one of those three camps, and depending on that camp, it changes the rest of your whole squad, right? And
yeah,
there's a bunch of those 10 mil midfielders now, and then there's a bunch of people who are cheaper. I feel like this season has been really hard to come up with this first draft because there's so many options.
mm. And you talk about the 10 mil midfielders, and like last season there was two, I think De
Yeah,
Bruyne and Son. And the season before there was just Son. So
yeah.
that price bracket was like you just don't have it. But this season with so many between 10 and 12,
Mm.
it's you can't have more. You can't have more than two if you want Haaland.
No, no way. Um, your backline, I had Konza and Anderson literally up until lunchtime today. um,
Yeah.
Barco I brought in lunchtime today. Uh, Isaac, I think I've seen in most teams. I've got Isaac as well. Eze, I've seen in most teams as well. I have heard things that, like last season, at the start of last season, I don't think Olise and Mateta were playing. I don't know if that's the truth, like if that's what actually
Yeah,
happened, but I heard
both
that
injured.
they were both out. So if that's anything to go by, and Mateta and Olise aren't in because Olise has moved on and Mateta's recovering, coming back from the Olympics, would we see the situation similar to last season where Eze might still be a great player, but he just doesn't that doesn't convert to points like last season because he doesn't have those two to link up with?
And that's it. It's whether he takes the team by the reins and goes for it, or whether the team just doesn't work. Um,
Mm,
if they've got another person up top to really go and score the goals, then I think they're okay. And if Eze is involved and is making those goals and creating them, I think we're okay. I mean, the other forward in their team is Edouard, and he has had prolific spells in the past. So, you know, can he get going? Um, if he bangs 3 goals in first game week, he's playing game week 2. It doesn't matter that Mateta's coming back. So, if they build up some steam, they're going to have to figure out how to get Mateta back in that team. And that could only bode well with two up top for Eze
absolutely.
to put two. And will Eze play out of position? Again, it's hard to know. But yeah, so he's kind of he needs to be in there for the price. But yeah,
The player I'm
fingers
very
crossed they go up.
envious of is Watkins. I do want Watkins in my team, but in this current draft, I can't get him in. I'm I've been tossing up between a Haaland draft, a Salah draft, and a Haaland and Salah draft, and I think I'm going to have to see closer to deadline date
Yeah, yeah.
how
That
everything looks.
Yeah, and this for me, the team that's on the screen is
Mhm.
it's the most balanced team that I can create. It's also got good bench coverage. It does create some benching headaches every now and then, but I'd rather leave points on the bench than have 10 people on the pitch.
Mm.
Um, I got like it's a good forward line. There's some the thing that I'm missing is that the 10 and a half, the 10 million midfielder. Like Salah's in there, so he can come down, but I probably can't stretch to get Fernandez up. Um, so I need to do some shuffling, whether that's you know one of Eze, Gordon, and Kunku becomes a 4-5 mil midfielder who's just never going to play, and the money goes elsewhere. But I'm kind of covering my bases at the start, not knowing who's going to play. And there's still players in this team who've been busy over the summer, who we hope are going to be back, but they might not play game week 1. You're looking at like Watkins, Gordon, um, Robertson injury, Guardiola away. They've all been away with national teams. You think Pickford's going to start? Like, how many nil-nil draws do England have? Christ! So like he's not done a lot. So hopefully he's gonna start. I don't have any issues with him. But there's a game week 1 in the future where Robertson's still injured. He doesn't play. Guardiola gets rotated out. Um, Gordon's not playing because he's potentially moving to Liverpool, and Watkins doesn't start. So then I'm dead in the water straight away. A wild card game week 2, anyone? But yeah,
That is a strategy. I have heard on the FPL grapevine that there are a few people are considering an early wildcard being very okay this season because you can roll your free transfers and you can get up to 5 transfers. I mean, that changes the game massively. 5 transfers is almost like a wildcard for some people.
like I said, I'm kind of planning for the first 5 or 6. So then if I can get, I think Robertson will come out, an Arsenal defender will go in. We'll see what happens with Trippier and Livramento. Like he might go in. We'll see what happens with Gordon. So there's movement to be had in there if need be. And if there's no movement in the transfer market and this can stay settled and it can start earning some points, then game week 5 or 6 we can do the mini wild card if we've not had to make any big changes and switch it around a little bit, kind of keep up with the pace.
Very good.
All right, let me stop the share and then you can wipe yours on the screen and we can.
All right. Can you see mine there?
Oh, I can. Let's make it bigger.
All right, hang on. I can. That better? All right.
Yeah,
So
nice.
in goal, in goal, I've got Turner with Flecken as backup. Now, I don't know, people. I just wanted 4.5 mil and and a 4 mil goalkeeper, and I guess from Turner point of view, I guess it depends on what happens there. But I wanted Nottingham Forest cover. This is really subject to change. Literally, I could afford a 4.5, 4.5, or a 4.5 and a 4. Okay. In the back line, I've got Alexander Arnold because Liverpool's fixtures are too good to not get exposure to. And I don't have Salah in here. So I'm like, cool. Well, I want access to attacking potential and defending potential. And TAA seems to be the person for that.
Yeah.
Whether he plays for game week 1, we'll find out. I'm waiting to hear to get some sort of confirmation there. Everton, Everton have actually had really good defensive stats last season. So for me, Mykolenko, it was like at what was he, 4.5? It was like a no-brainer for me. And then Robinson at 4.5 as well. For me, I think I remember seeing somewhere I was watching, I can't remember which video I was watching, but they were looking at expected goal involvement and things like that. And for 4.5 mil, Robinson and Mykolenko were actually doing pretty good from that perspective. So hence I picked those two. And then my cheap defenders was Harwood Bellis, Southampton, and Barco because Estepinian being out until September or whatever it might be, was my sort of cover there. I had to go pretty cheap with these two to save a bit of money, and I think I've got none in the bank. I must have spent it somewhere. In the midfield, I've got Saka. because I'm an Arsenal fan, I just felt weird to not have an Arsenal player. It just felt really strange. I may change this, okay? I very well may change this, but for now, I've got Saka there. And here's the thing: I could downgrade TAA and turn Saka into Salah, and then I would have a draft of Haaland and Salah. But I just then my defense
Mm,
backline would be absolutely trash.
mm.
It would, like so cheap. I've got Son. We were talking about Son before, so I've got Son, and for me, it was the fixtures: Leicester, Everton, Newcastle. There'll be goals there, so I feel like literally from a goals perspective, it's clear all the way except for Arsenal, basically all the way through to Man City. Arsenal, Man City would be like the only games there where I'd say, hey, there's very low chance of goals. Everyone else, I think, could be potentially goals happening there. Hence my pick for Son. Eze for the same
Yeah,
reasons you mentioned. Although I'm conscious of the fact that with Mateta and Olise out, will it just be like last year? Because last year I started with Eze as well, and he did nothing for a good number of game weeks. I ended up shipping him. Like everyone was scoring. Mbermo was scoring. I remember he was super hot. Everyone was getting him in, and Eze was just 2 points, 2 points, 3 points. And it was so
yeah,
frustrating. And this is giving me like, oh, are we going to repeat last year feels? But I've got him in there for now. And Gibbs White, I believe he's the penalty taker for Nottingham Forest. I had
yeah.
Hudson
I think
Odoi
so.
there before, but I managed to free up 1 million to upgrade him to Gibbs White instead. Actually, that's where my million went. Uh, and Rogers is the cheap backup for the midfield. I have heard he's been doing well in preseason. Uh, whether that translates to the actual, whether he can get minutes when the season actually starts, we'll need to see. But for now, Rogers is the bench warmer for the midfield. And up front, 15 million is really expensive.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's ridiculous for one player, but he just bagged a Hattie against Chelsea, right?
But it was Chelsea.
Yes.
Like they're so up and down. But I agree. Like I think if we had more money, Holland's in everyone's team. He's
Yeah.
and now there's no competition. If Alvarez is gone, there's no competition up front. He's going to play the games.
And here's the thing. It's like, yes, you can downgrade Haaland and spread the money elsewhere, but realistically, you might save, a couple $1 million, spread it elsewhere. Would they outscore? It's almost like you've got this pillar of safety there, knowing it's always a backup captain and you have access to huge explosive returns. Another thing to consider is this: if you start without Haaland and he crushes it, how easy is it to get him back in? And I don't know. And this is what's going on in my mind. It's like, oh, if I go with Haaland, then I don't have access to Salah. I mean, I can get Salah by setting down TAA, but to get Haaland back, oof, you're spreading that money a lot amongst a lot of players. I'm not married to this. These are just my thoughts so far. Isaac, for obvious reasons, Newcastle have great fixtures, and he actually he crushed it end of last season. So I'm hoping he continues that as long as he can stay injury free. And Armstrong, I've just look. I know very little about Southampton. I just heard that hey, they can score here and there. And the other thing was he's $5.5 million. And I didn't want Yao Pedro because I had him last season and he gave me very little points, very little return. So I was like, I want someone else at $5.5 million. Let's go with this guy. I've heard he's
And,
okay at Southampton. He's nailed on. We'll find out.
and from what I'm hearing, Pedro's not been starting preseason games. Like they've got players out and he's not starting. So is he going to be as nailed as we think? It's hard to tell. Um, I like your team. It's what we've got. Yeah, Isak and Son are the only ones that we both have. I'm Barco, but you got Barco bench to start with, and I've got him in. Um, yeah, that's it's nice. I quite like it. Have you for any? considered any of like with your cheap defenders, any of the rotational pairings that go really well together? Because you've
Yes,
got
I.
half of a lot of them.
What's that?
So you've got like half of a few of them. Because like I think sorry, I've got it up here. But it's like Villa and Forest pair well. Brentford and Southampton. You got a Southampton, no Brentford, and I probably would not have Brentford. And like Palace and Everton rotate really well. So Palace game week 1 and 2 Brentford and West Ham, and Everton have got Brighton and Tottenham. And then when Palace have Chelsea, Everton have Bournemouth. Like so, there's a green fixture all the way there. So I don't
So
know.
I had
I don't know
Anderson.
about
I
yeah.
had
Okay.
Anderson this morning. Apparently, he's been having a terrible preseason, so that's why I shipped him
Mm.
out. But here's the
I
thing:
mean,
I don't know what it means to have a terrible preseason when you're a defender, uh,
yeah,
but apparently that's the case.
because he's a point in my team as well that if I downgrade Pickford to 4.5, whatever it is, down zero point 0.5, Anderson would turn into Muniz, who's a Crystal Palace wing back, and he would replace Anderson in my team. But I don't know about replacing Pickford. As a Liverpool fan, I'm not fond of having him, but I've also had Mikolenko in a couple of drafts because again, like they pair really well with Palace. But I can't see Consta staying at 4-5. If Villa start well, I can see him going up in price, which then gives me room to move a little bit. Um, but yeah, again,
So,
I think
so
if
Rob,
I go go on.
I know you go.
If I go Livramento, Consta stays because Newcastle and Villa have a great rotational pairing as well.
So Robinson came in for Konza for me. So, like I said, it's between Konza and Anderson. There were these constant movements in and out. Mikalenko is probably the only 4.5 that stayed consistent this whole time. Mikalenko and Howard Bellis, those two have been like the only cheap defenders here who have stayed constant in my team for the whole time. These other two have been changing in and out. TAA has been pretty constant as well. One thought I
Yeah,
did have was this, right? Is who, Arsenal defense I want exposure to. And I know they got terrible fixtures at the start, but Arsenal, Arsenal, I almost want to take out the headache of needing to change and rotate goalkeepers. So a bit of me actually was tempted to just bring in
right.
Raya and
Mm,
have any 4 mil goalkeeper. I don't care who it is. And if there's a goalkeeper that's going to drop below 4 mil, I'll literally like wait for that drop and then trade that 4 mil to that 3.9 mil goalkeeper just so I can just play Raya day in, day out, rain, hail, or shine. Because if we think Arsenal's defense is going to be like last year, then I'm just going to constantly have one defender there, being the goalkeeper. And the goalkeeper is Arsenal's cheapest defender. Sure, you don't get
mm.
the attacking returns, but it's the cheapest goalkeeper. Anyways, that's my team. I'll hang on. I'll come back to sharing
Yeah.
that.
So I think
Yeah.
the only small thing I'd have is just make sure we know who the Forest keeper is going to be for the start of the season. You've got one, and I've got a different one. Yours is 4 million. If and he's 20% owned.
Yeah.
If he doesn't start, he's going to drop, and
Mm.
you're going to be left at 3.9, 3.8.
Yeah.
Like, but again, it could be the same. He's going to be hard. Raya is 5.5. Like he's the same price as Edison and Allison. And I know I I don't want to be using a Liverpool or a City spot on a goalkeeper. And I'm kind of there with Arsenal as well. I want the opportunity to go Havertz, Odegaard, Saka at some point when they
Mm.
have green fixtures, and I don't really want to tie up the goalkeeper because it's hard to change the goalkeeper off. Um, but yeah, I'm the same. Like I just want to leave a goalkeeper in there. I wanted to do Leno, but he's 5, and I can't. When you got Leno at 5 and Pickford at 5, and I think Pickford's a better pick at 5. Um, I think my Forest keeper's 4.5, so I could just get rid of the headache and drop him to a 4. There isn't a lot of options but I could just stick Austin in from Spurs. He's 0.4% owned. He's not going to drop in price. So it's the four safe there, and then I can move Muniz around. Um, yeah, I'm jealous of the Sun pick. I do like the pick. Is there? I know you said that you're not as in with all the movements and the players, but is there a player moving potentially that you would like to get if they move?
Oh, that I can't answer only because I know people who I wouldn't want if they moved,
Yeah,
but not one which not one which I would want, but only because I think I'm naive to knowing about the movements. How about yourself?
I've got one,
Oh,
uh, and I've heard some rum. Well, I've read some rumors, but I don't know. Ivan Tony, if he moves to Spurs,
ooh,
that's I think he's 7.5 million. He's in my team.
yeah.
I don't know. He wasn't fabulous for Brentford last year, but he did start suspended for his betting issues. Um, and then when he came in and Burma went out, and it was very turbulent, and Brentford was very poor all season. He has got the audacity to rival Richarlison in that team. His cheeky friggin' penalty for England in the Euros, his no look penalty. I think he could be a steal if he lands at Spurs. I don't think Richarlison did enough last year to warrant just getting the starting spot. So if he moved, I'd yeah, I'd be in trouble, and I'd be. How do I go up from Muniz to him, or do I go down? But I don't think he outscores Isak or Watkins
No.
to start with. Oh, but he would be fun to have.
Already there's a few things which I may make changes to my team. Well, I definitely will change, but a few new seeds of ideas coming in, which is I'm really old only having Saka in there because I just feel like I need an Arsenal player, right? Saka could be Salah, and I could have a Haaland Salah draft. And I know the rest of the team becomes very weak. No TAA in the back line, but then it gives me a lot of flexibility to downgrade and upgrade elsewhere depending on how game week 1, 2 goes. On the flip side, I've been playing around with the Salah draft, no Haaland, and it's looking similar to yours, but I've got Son, I've got Saka in there as well. Um, yeah, this is a hard one. I think this has been the hardest season to come up with a draft because there's three main roads to go down, whereas in previous seasons there hasn't. There hasn't been. Like last
Yeah,
season, you could afford both Haaland and Salah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's the most, like you say, it's the most untemplate season that I've seen for a while, and it's since I've been listening to stuff and really been invested in it. It's the most spread that I've seen. I don't think there's many people with the same teams. Lots of people have got difference, even if it's just a Fernandez or a Son. There isn't a set team, and it's great. It's so good for the game. It's going to be such a good start to the season. We game week 6 with the same team, but we're not going to all be on the same point. So people are going to have to do stuff to get around that, and hopefully that it's not. We're not going to have a pack move forward like we have in previous seasons. There's been like a batch of 2 million people who move forward together because they've got the same players. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And
I,
it's what we are week and a half away, and it's already.
we're getting close. I can see and this has happened almost every season I've played. I've wildcarded within the first 5 game weeks. So uh, I can see myself wildcarding again in like game week 2. And that's the thing. That could be my play. I will, if I don't go Haaland and Salah team, I might just do a draft purely trying to crush game week 1, bench boost game week 1, and then wildcard back game week 2.
Ooh, bench boost game week 1 is tricky though if you're picking players who've been away.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Saka played a lot of minutes. I know Arteta loves him and he plays all the time, but he played a lot of minutes over the summer. You want to make sure he's going to play 90 minutes before you bench boost. But
True.
yeah, the early wild card is an option. You have Starland, you have Haaland and Salah both in the team. If you can get Trent and 4 mil the rest of your back line for 3 weeks, you've got Liverpool away at Ipswich game week 1. City, I think, at home to Ipswich game week 2. You can hold points those first 2 weeks and then set yourself up. It's another valid strategy. Yeah, and I'm myself sort of missing out on those City points at Ipswich. But where do you go? Do you bring Foden in? Will he play? He played a lot of minutes over the summer.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about Bob. He might steal the points. Who knows?
Maybe that's the key. We should just get Bob in. And, you know, rolling transfers and not having money to spend makes me nervous because then when I see myself missing out on value increases, oh, that hurts. Because here's
Yeah,
the thing, how many people are going to be rushing in to get Haaland and Salah? How many people can afford to rush in to get Haaland and Salah if you don't already own them? So realistically, your return on now, I'm talking like finance space, but the
yeah,
return on your investment is going to be lower on Haaland and Salah, I feel, because you're unlikely to sell them. And because of their price and their unaffordability, it's less likely they're going to pump in price really easily. They're unattainable by a lot of people, right? Unless the people spend wildcards. Whereas if you have money available to be able to move into those Eze's or Isaacs or Watkins, for example, they're more likely to go up because people are more likely to be able to afford them, and
yeah.
less moves in the team need to happen to bring them in. So price rises can happen with those. So yeah, there's lots of thoughts going through my mind, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be challenging. But I'm curious to see what our teams look like a week from now.
Yeah, and that's it. And just one thing with the price rises, it's important to consider that is it 2 price rises you can have in a game week? I don't think you can go up more than that. So
Three, I think.
3.
Hmm.
So there is a week where Haaland is achievable. When he starts to go up in price, you do have a game week before you really have to make that decision, and then it's do you wildcard him in?
Hmm.
But and because with the flexibility in especially in my team with the defenders and stuff, and the goalkeepers, I've said every formation there, I do have the ability to wildcard early and get him in. Like I could have Salah game week 1, wildcard Haaland in, get Salah out. There's options, there's places to move. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm bring on next week. Let's see who's in the team. Charity Shield, Community Shield, whatever it's called now. Saturday, Man City, Man United generally is a good game to see what the teams are going to set up like. I think we had Liverpool City last year. Arsenal played in it, and it always gives you a good indicator of who's back and who's going for it. So it'd be interesting to see who comes out for that City team, how United set up, and are we going to have an upset again? Like no one picked United to beat City in the FA Cup final last year, um, and I just want it to be a decent game. A good game in the Community Shield gives you a lot of information. A crap 6-0 one-sided win gives you nothing to go on because all the players come off. So let's hope for a 3-3 or a 0-0 with a good gameplay. And then we have a lot more information and a lot better information from the Manchester teams next week, and there'll be other friendlies. And yeah, and then it'll be because I don't want to say next Tuesday or whatever will be my game week 1 team because we know that it won't, but it will be further there. And how much change has moved? Is Pickford still there? Is he not? Have you dropped tools and gone Haaland Salah? It's so exciting. It's going to be nuts, and I kind of just wish I could sleep until the season starts because young children, you don't sleep anyway. You may as well stay up all night and watch the games and watch the points come in or not come in. So it's going to be great, and it's yeah.
I look
I don't know
forward
about
to.
you. I can't wait to get going.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And a bit of me just wants the anticipation to be over. I just want to be like, start the season already. Let me just lock in the team. I can't deal with all these choices.
But I mean, we get there, game week one starts, and I have a couch that I can actually hide behind. So game week one starts, and Haaland isn't in my team, and you know where I'm going to be behind the couch.
That's the thing. And same with Salah though, because he's got Ipswich.
Yeah, but Liverpool against promoted teams away from home, they can mess it up. You look at was it Watford who completely derailed their undefeated season? What? Where did they come from? Like, but that's probably just pessimistic Liverpool fan who's always expecting the loss to come. But you know, we've also had them where we've railroaded the teams. So you know what Liverpool is going to pop out: new manager again, new formation. Is Slot going to trust Darwin? Is he going to go Jota? Gakpo amazing in the Euros. It's all up in the air. Let's see how we go.
That's all right. I think that's a good place to call this a successful first episode.
I think so.
Let's I'm highly anticipating the information you'll have after the weekend's games because I will have no clue. All I see is names being brought up, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's been some changes in the FPL world.
What's it? I think yeah. Let's leave it there. We'll reconvene next week. And if anyone has listened this week, thank you. And if you want to join us and if you want to try and beat myself at Andy, our league code is 1K4WNZ FPL down under because obviously we are based down under. So thank you for listening. Thanks, Andy, for joining me.
Thank
I
you
look
for all
forward
the
to seeing your
knowledge.
team next week.
Awesome. Likewise. See ya.
See you, mate.